Hi, my name is Ariel Courtney. I work at the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources and help support Parks and Trails partnership and volunteer programs. Thank you for deciding to become a State Parks and Trails volunteer. Your passion and dedication for Minnesota's great outdoors is what makes our state parks and trails the amazing places they are today. Your time and effort are greatly appreciated. As volunteers, you are part of our DNR team. We want to make sure your experience volunteering with us is safe, fun, and fulfilling. Your safety is very important to us, and we want to ensure you feel confident and informed when you start your volunteer role. This video will cover the basic safety topics that many volunteers will encounter during their time with us. We will review a variety of topics, from orienting you to emergency protocol, to tick prevention, to safety in cold and hot weather. While this video is comprehensive, you may still need additional training that meets other OSHA or compliance standards for our staff and volunteers. Check with your DNR contact to see what else might be necessary. We appreciate your patience and understanding with this training information, and we hope it serves you well during your time with us. Now, let's go visit one of our parks to learn more.
My name is Jake, and I'm a park manager here at Frontenac State Park. I want to share a few tips for getting oriented as you begin volunteering with us. First, it's important to meet your DNR contact so you know who you'll be working with. It's always helpful to make sure you know how to contact them for questions if they won't be on site with you at any point. Some of our sites don't have great cell service. If that's the case, they may give you a walkie-talkie for communication. Next, it's always important to understand where things are. If you aren't already familiar with the location, grab a map or download one through the Avenza Maps app and make sure you know where entrances, exits, bathrooms, and staff offices are. If visitors know you're a volunteer, they will ask you a lot of these types of questions, including where to find firewood and what to do in case of severe weather. You may also want to be familiar with where to find a first aid kit, AED, and general information about what to do if you or a fellow visitor has an accident or injury during your time volunteering. Your DNR contact can help give you all this information when you arrive. If you're volunteering at a state forest or a state trail with no DNR staff available on site, be sure to clarify what to do in an emergency beforehand and to check postings when you arrive. Many DNR sites will post information about where to go in case of severe weather, nearby hospitals, and other important services on a kiosk near a trail access point or entrance. And remember, although very unlikely, if you do get injured while volunteering, you are covered by the DNR's worker compensation insurance.
Now we'll give you a general overview of several safety topics. While we can't cover everything in this video, you should feel more prepared for your volunteer opportunity after watching.
Hello, my name is Linda Rademecki, and I'm the park naturalist here at Afton State Park. It is cold out here today, but that doesn't stop us from enjoying some good winter fun outside. While there aren't as many volunteering opportunities in the winter, many of our special programs like candlelight events are examples of when we really need volunteer help, and it's important to be prepared for the colder weather. Prolonged exposure to very cold temperatures without adequate clothing or protection can put people at risk to cold-related illnesses like hypothermia or frostbite. Your comfort and safety is our top priority. Let's talk about some signs of frostbite and hypothermia so you can identify them in yourself or another person while you're volunteering. Signs of frostbite include cold skin and prickly feeling, numbness, skin that looks red, white, bluish white, grayish yellow, purplish, brown, or ashen, depending on the severity of the skin color. Sometimes people will have waxy or hard-looking skin. They may also seem clumsy due to joint and muscle stiffness. If you notice these symptoms in yourself or another, let DNR staff know and make sure to get inside and/or warm as soon as possible. Remove any wet clothing and protect affected areas from further cold. Signs of hypothermia include intense shivering, slurred speech, drowsiness, and loss of coordination. If you notice these symptoms, Also remove wet layers and wrap the person in warm blankets until help arrives. However, our goal is to make sure that you and our visitors avoid these scenarios in the first place. So to prevent this from happening, always make sure you and your fellow volunteers are dressed properly. For example, today it's below freezing, so I'm wearing lots of layers. I have a base layer on, some people call it long underwear, top and bottom. I have a turtleneck, I have my uniform shirt, I have a heavy parka jacket. I have warm boots, I have choppers, I have hand warmer inside my chopper or my mittens. And if it gets colder tonight, I'm going to put another layer on my bottom. So dress in layers, stay warm. If you get cold, make sure you tell someone that you need to take a break. Other tips we suggest include paying attention to the wind chill or weather that is wet and cold, and limiting your exposure. Dress in layers, several of loose layers of warm clothing. Make sure your ears are fully protected, and we recommend mittens rather than gloves. Don't forget to also eat well, stay hydrated, and keep moving if possible. Check out our How to Dress for Minnesota Winters infographic if you need more guidance for different temperatures. Another important part of how you dress is, of course, your footwear. Wear warm boots with good traction. And if it's especially icy, you can find traction devices that go over the bottoms of your boots to prevent slipping. Finally, if the weather is predicted to be bad during your volunteer shift, do not travel. You can notify your DNR contact that you won't be coming in that day to stay safe. If the weather does worsen while you're on duty and you have to drive home, drive slow and make sure you have emergency items in your car like canned food, blankets, an ice scraper, kitty litter or sand in case you get stuck, a shovel, a cell phone charger, and jumper cables, just to name a few. We hope you are never stuck in a blizzard while you volunteer or traveling to or from your volunteer site, but it's always best to be prepared, just in case. Most important, if you are warm and dry, you will have more fun and enjoy your volunteering experience even more.
Hi, I'm Amy. I'm the Assistant Park Manager at Frontenac State Park. Many of our volunteers help us out with invasive species removal, tree or other native plantings, and even some prescribed burning. Most of you are out here in the woods or prairies with us at some point, and while a variety of volunteer opportunities allow you to stay on trail, many won't. That's why it's important that you are familiar with a few types of poisonous or hazardous plants and how to protect yourself. Most of us are familiar with poison ivy. You know, leaves of 3, let them be. As you may know, if your skin comes into contact with poison ivy, it can result in an uncomfortable skin rash that can be itchy or burning. It will develop between 12 hours to 5 days after exposure. So how do we identify and avoid it? The most important thing, other than knowing what it looks like, is to wear long pants and long sleeve shirts so that most skin coming into contact with plants is protected. This is some poison ivy here, but it can come in a few different growth forms. It may be a thick vine winding around a tree. It can also look like a bush, and sometimes it grows closer to the ground. All of the leaves have 3 separate leaflets. The middle leaf has a longer stalk. The edges can be smooth or have a few big jagged teeth, and it does come in a few different shades of green. But in the fall or when the leaves are young, they can be red. If you really want to go above and beyond, you can pick up an ivy block barrier solution at your local drugstore to apply to your skin as an extra precaution. Other pesky plants to look out for include wild parsnip, stinging nettle, giant hogweed, and poison hemlock, to name just a few. There are a lot. Here are some universal tips to protect yourself against all of these species. 1. As much as possible, learn to identify the hazardous plants I mentioned. 2. Never eat any plants or parts of plants. And 3. Wear protective gloves, safety glasses, a long sleeve shirt, pants, and sturdy boots when working with plants. If you can keep those things in mind while you're working with or near plants, you'll be a happy camper and a happy volunteer.
It's springtime in Minnesota. And of course, we at DNR recognize the beginning of spring with ticks. Yes, we want to avoid ticks, but they are a fact of life in nature. So we might as well learn to live with them by making sure we prevent getting a bite in the first place. What ticks should we be aware of? In particular, black-legged ticks, commonly known as deer ticks, are concerning because they might carry Lyme disease. We'll take a look at what different Minnesota ticks look like. Although Minnesota is home to 13 different types of ticks, black-legged ticks, dog ticks, and Lone Star ticks are the most common. Any tick can carry disease, so it's best to maximize our prevention strategies and know your risk time frame. Ticks are out when the weather is mild, typically peaking from mid-May through mid-July. However, if you are walking in heavy brush, plan for tick prevention anytime the weather is above freezing. Tips to avoid ticks include: walk in the center of the trail to avoid picking up ticks from grass and brush. Wear light-colored clothing so you can see them more easily. Wear long-sleeved pants tucked into socks with gaiters. Use a repellent containing DEET or permethrin, and follow the manufacturer's directions for application. After being in tick habitat, take off your clothes as soon as possible and do a full body check and shower off. Make sure to promptly wash clothes that were exposed as well. At DNR, we require 2 forms of tick protection, such as wearing gaiters and using repellent together. DNR staff can also help you find out how to treat your clothing with permethrin like our staff do. So what should you do if you get a tick bite? If it's already attached, use tweezers to grab the tick close to its mouth and slowly pull the tick straight outward. Then wash the area and apply antiseptic to the bite. Watch for signs of Lyme disease afterwards, such as the red bullseye around the bite mark. If you feel sick for any reason, seek medical attention. Daily tick checks are important because the sooner you catch a tick, the better chances you have of avoiding disease transmission.
Whether we're dealing with campfires, prescribed burns, or wildfires, there is a lot to be prepared for in terms of preventing fires from spreading. If you're a volunteer at a state park or a campground host, you may be in charge of helping educate visitors about how to effectively put out a campfire. The saying we always use is cool to the touch. After you put out your campfire, there should be no warmth left. This is important and many people know this, but still don't do it. Also, be a good role model by practicing this habit in your own campsite if applicable. If you volunteer inside a DNR building, make sure you are aware of any fire evacuation procedures for that site. Get familiar with where exits and stairwells are located. Extinguishers can be found in all DNR fleet vehicles and motorized boats. It's important to keep in mind that you should never attempt to fight fire unless you've been trained. The fire is small and contained, you can avoid the smoke, there's a clear path to the exit, and the extinguisher is close. If you need to use a fire extinguisher, use the pass method. Pull the pin, aim the hose, squeeze the handle, and sweep at the base of the fire. If you are volunteering on a prescribed burn or are in a volunteer role where you may need to know how to use a fire extinguisher, make sure to work with your DNR contact to get any additional training needed for those tasks. And lastly, always call 911 and notify DNR in the case of a fire emergency. Your safety is the top priority.
Much of the DNR's volunteer work occurs in the warmer months, when we have to take heat and sun into consideration as we plan our days outdoors. While it may seem obvious to stay in the shade, apply sunscreen and stay hydrated. These habits can go a long way in preventing heat stress and related illnesses. You can also consider doing your volunteer work at a cooler time of day. To give you a sense of what might occur if you or a member of the public experiences a heat-related illness, here are some things to watch for. Heat rash. This is a skin irritation caused by sweat that doesn't evaporate from the skin. It might look like red bumps on the skin. It's one of the less severe types of heat stress, but can still be itchy or prickly when it happens. Heat exhaustion can also occur due to dehydration and working in hot weather for too long without a break. Symptoms of heat exhaustion are heavy sweating, cool skin, lightheadedness or fainting, weakness, headache, and even dizziness or fast and shallow breathing, among other symptoms. If you observe any of these symptoms in yourself or someone else, get help. Take action to cool yourself or another person by moving to shade and using cool compresses. Then make sure to rehydrate as soon as possible. Heat stroke is the most severe heat-related illness and happens if your body can't regulate its temperature anymore. It's a medical emergency and you will need to call 911 immediately. Warning signs include an extremely high body temperature, above 103 degrees Fahrenheit, red, hot, or dry skin without sweat, throbbing headache, nausea, unconsciousness, and even seizures. It's scary stuff, and we don't want anyone to be in this situation. In any case, where these illnesses seem alarming, especially for heat exhaustion and heat stroke, call 911. Thanks for your diligence in drinking water and staying cool out there.
If you're volunteering for the DNR, you're probably someone who spends a lot of time outdoors and understands that summer in Minnesota also means thinking about being prepared for severe weather should it occur. This is especially important for campground hosts, as they have additional responsibilities in helping us notify campers when severe weather is forecasted and where to go should people need to take shelter. However, everyone visiting state parks and trails for any length of time should have some basic understanding of severe weather preparedness. Here are a few tips we recommend before you head to a park or trail or your volunteer shift. 1. Consider building an emergency kit for your vehicle that includes items like non-perishable food, water, a crank or battery-powered radio, flashlights, and batteries. 2. Make a plan for your group if you're going to be separated during a weather event. You should consider how you will contact one another, how you will get back together, and what you need to do in case of an emergency. 3. Simply be aware of the weather forecast. This helps you determine or decide if you might want to head home early or whether it would be safer to stay put. If you are in an area where you don't get cell phone reception or Wi-Fi, find a DNR staff person. People come to a state park or trail and never give a moment's thought to finding out where safe shelters are in a park or along a trail. At parks, if there is severe weather, buildings or permanent outhouses are the safest choices. Stay away from doors, windows, and exterior walls if possible. Stay there until the danger has passed. If you can't get into a building, shelter in your vehicle. If you're not sure where to go or what radio station to tune into, usually this is posted on information kiosk near the ranger station, visitor center, campground, or trailhead for state trails. At our staffed locations, we try to go around and warn people if there is severe weather coming. But in many cases, people must be responsible for their own safety when they are recreating in unstaffed or more remote locations. A couple of other things that are helpful to know are the 30-30 lightning safety rule. Go indoors if after you see lightning, you can't count to 30 before you hear thunder. Stay indoors for 30 minutes after hearing the last clap of thunder. We are also seeing more flooding in Minnesota in recent years. If it has been raining hard for several hours or steadily for several days, be alert to the possibility of a flood. Do not walk through flowing water. It may contain contaminants like oil, gas, sewage, or downed power lines. 6 inches of swiftly moving water can knock you off your feet. After severe weather has passed, it's important to be mindful of a few different things. For example, use care around downed power lines. Assume a downed wire is a live wire. If you see this in a park or on a trail, please report it to DNR and/or emergency authorities. Watch out for overhead hazards like broken tree limbs, wires, and other debris. Leave any area that smells like gas or chemical fumes after weather events or anytime. Make sure your backup generators are well ventilated. Never use grills, generators, or camping stoves indoors. And if you are ever unsure about the safety of a situation or have other questions about severe weather preparedness, communicate with your DNR contact immediately. Thank you for taking care of yourself and our visitors.
Most of our volunteers interact with the public at one point or another. And as we DNR employees know well, the public can be unpredictable. As a DNR volunteer, many people want to talk to you about what you're doing, who you work for, and what is your opinion on this topic or that topic. It's important that you represent the DNR when you are volunteering and remain unbiased on any controversial issues that people might bring up. If you have questions about this or would like suggested responses, talk to your DNR contact. Because state parks and trails are public places, It's not impossible that you would have an interaction with someone that makes you feel uncomfortable for any number of reasons. If you ever feel unsafe around someone while volunteering, or in general, remove yourself from the situation and let your DNR contact know. If you don't feel safe or feel comfortable talking to your DNR contact, you may communicate with their supervisor or the DNR Volunteer Program Director instead. Thank you for your dedication to volunteering with the DNR. Your efforts help us accomplish our vision of creating unforgettable park, trail, and water recreation experiences that inspire people to pass along the love for the outdoors to current and future generations. Happy trails!